Congressman Matt Cartwright, who sits on the Appropriations Committee and is also co-chair of the House Democratic Policy and Communications Committee. Congressman, thank you for being with us.
Good to be with you again, Chris, and good Memorial Day to you.
Happy Memorial Day to you. And it's a very sad day. I mean, it's always a day for remembering, but now it's also a day, I think, for a lot of people for action. You said in a statement after the shooting, we need to start treating gun violence as the deadly public health crisis it is. So what does that look like to you? And maybe more to the point, how do you make it happen?
Well, thank you for the question, and thanks for having me on about this, Chris. I got elected to Congress in 2012. And the first thing they do is they send you to orientation. It was in December of 2012. I was sitting in orientation next to a red-haired fellow elected person to Congress. And she and I were going through orientation, and all of a sudden her phone went off, and she took the call. And I looked at her, and the blood drained from her face. And she turned off her phone, and she stood up, and she had to excuse herself. It was Elizabeth Esty, and she represented Newtown, Connecticut. She had just been elected to do so. She just found out that 20 toddlers got mowed down in Sandy Hook. And, you know, I'm a gun owner myself, Chris. I have a Remington 700. It's a deer rifle. And I'm a responsible gun owner, as are most gun owners in the United States. But after Sandy Hook, I went on Mike Thompson's Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. I've been on that ever since. And we've been looking for common sense ways to cut down on senseless gun violence. You know, that was almost 10 years ago now. And in that 10 years, we're talking about close to 1,000 more school shootings. Unbelievable. And you know, people say, well, Congress isn't acting. Congress is acting. It's the Democrats who are acting. The Republicans are blocking the way every single time. I want to tell you, most NRA members that I know, they're okay with the kind of common sense, mild, really, gun safety legislation that we've done. We've enacted over 12 gun safety bills in the House since Democrats have been in charge of the House, and they've stalled in the Senate. And it's not the average gun owner. It's not really. I think the plurality of NRA members are fine with sensible, mild, common sense gun legislation like expanded background checks, universal background checks, things like red flag laws to make sure people who shouldn't have guns get a hold of them. But the Republicans, politicians in the Senate are blocking everything, despite the will of the country. And anyway, I mentioned Sandy Hook because it was Chris Murphy who represented that area before Elizabeth Esty. And it's entirely appropriate that he take the lead in the Senate. And we're hearing some encouraging things from him.
Are you hearing encouraging things? Do you talk to your fellow Republicans? Do you sense a change from all the previous times? I went to Newtown. I watched the outpouring. I saw the polls that showed, as they do now, as you mentioned, not only do the overwhelming number of Americans, but the overwhelming number of Republicans and gun owners believe, when you're looking at 90%, for example, background checks. So do you sense a change? And does calling this a public health crisis change something or move people?
I don't know what will move the intransigent Republican senators who are preventing sensible gun violence prevention legislation from moving through the Senate. But I know that a bunch of them are up for election this fall. I know a bunch of them have taken millions of dollars from the NRA leadership. You know, the political money flowing from the NRA to these Republican senators, and they need to be called out. Chris Murphy is trying to work with them, but I'm here to tell you, if Democrats want to get this done, they have to come out and vote this fall at the polls, because your vote is your voice. If you care about moving sensible gun violence prevention legislation, you have to vote and you have to make your voice heard.
Congressman Matt Cartwright, it's good to see you again. Thank you so much for taking the time on this Memorial Day. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Take care.